Okay, hi everyone. And welcome to the first meeting of the new CPIC school year for September 9th, 2024. We'll start it off with Nancy with the Superintendent Nolfo, and the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Lauren. As we begin this meeting, let us take a moment to reflect on the land we have gathered upon. We acknowledge that the Halton Catholic District School Board resides on the traditional territory of several Indigenous nations. These include the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We recognize the enduring presence and contributions of all Indigenous people, including First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, and their profound relationship to the land, water, and community. In the spirit of reconciliation and with gratitude, we are mindful of our responsibility to honor and respect the sacred trust. As members of the Catholic education community, we are called to embrace the values of justice, truth, and love, and to commit ourselves to actions that promote equity, understanding, and healing. We hold in our prayer all Indigenous peoples and ask for the grace to walk together on the path of reconciliation. And Jillian's going to lead us in the opening prayer. In the name of the Father,
Okay, thank you very much. So first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. And so if anybody has any additions or changes, and I have one minor change that I just saw. On 8.3.1, you put Becca on bullying on the agenda. It should be lobby. Lobby. So that's the minor change, is just the wrong name. Does anybody have any other changes, additions, deletions? Nope. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda then? Emily, second. Ada, thank you very much. Or anybody opposed? No, okay, cool. Okay, minutes from our last meeting, which was June 3rd of 2024. Does anybody have any additions, changes, deletions? Motion to approve. Emily, second. Janelle, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to pass it back over to Superintendent Dinolfo for our Code of Ethics review.
Thank you, Lauren. And before we begin, welcome everyone. I'm thrilled to be working together with you. Thank you for either coming back to CPIC this year or for accepting the nomination and your position on CPIC for this year. You are a very important part of some of the work that we do here in Halton Catholic. I'm sure you're contributing members to your own school community, but now you're contributing to the greater community as representatives for CPIC, which is basically the Parent Involvement Committee or the Catholic School Council for the school board. Okay. With all our Catholic school councils, there is a code of ethics. So if you were on council at your school, you probably reviewed it. We do have some amended code of ethics in the language. So I'm going to read them to you. Okay. These are the code of ethics that we all must follow as members of CPIC. Okay. When we do the commissioning and the declaration of your role on CPIC, this is what you're signing off on. You're saying that you're going to abide to the code of ethics and honor that as we work together on this committee this year. Okay. So the Code of Ethics applies to all Catholic Parent Involvement Committee members. Each member is guided by the mission and vision of the Halton Catholic District School Board and knows and follows the Halton Catholic District School Board Code of Conduct. Each member shall endeavor to practice the highest standards of honesty, accuracy, and integrity, and respect the rights and dignity of each member of the school and HCDSB community. Each member is responsible for applying democratic principles and encouraging a positive atmosphere where individual contributions are encouraged and valued, and where respect is shown for differences in people, their ideas, and their opinions. Members will follow and promote high standards of ethical practices, shall accept accountability for decision and actions, and will declare a conflict of interest if applicable. The members of CPIC do their work transparently and respect that matters that require confidentiality, such as issues involving individual HCDSB staff or students, are not within the purview of CPIC. Members will not communicate confidential information that they might be exposed to, and will use established appropriate communication channels in their role or when questions or concerns arise. Members understand that their work must consider the best interest of all students and be relevant to the issues of concern to a school community or the school board as a whole. You are volunteers engaged in servant leadership and do not accept payment for your committee participation except as permitted by the Halton Catholic District School Board policy.
Okay, does anybody have any questions on that before we move on? Nope. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so next item is number 4, is our commissioning ceremony. So I'd like to invite Jillian Federico up to start us off.
Jacob left Beersheba and went toward Haran. He came to a certain place and stayed there for the night. Taking one of the stones of the place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place. So Jacob rose early in the morning, and he took the stone that he had put under his head and set it up for a pillar and poured oil on the top of it. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, "If God will be with me and will keep me in this way, that I go then, the Lord, shall be my God. And this stone, which I have set up for a pillar, shall be God's house. The word of the Lord.
A reading from the first letter of Peter. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others. As faithful stewards of God's grace, it is in its various forms. If anyone speaks, they should do so as one who speaks the very words of God. Whoever serves must do so with the strength that God supplies, so that God may be glorified in all things through Jesus Christ. To him belong the glory and the power forever and ever. Amen. The word of the Lord.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so with that done, thank you very much, Jillian. That was lovely. My pleasure. You too. Okay, so now that we're all officially members on CPIC, the first item up is our co-chair election. So CPIC is always overseen by two co-chairs who serve alternating 2-year terms so that there's always continuity year on year. So my co-chair last year did not reposition or did not rerun for CPIC this following year. She had a job change and just couldn't commit to the time commitment. So unfortunately, Jen's not here anymore. But anyways, so just a quick review of the responsibilities of the co-chair. The co-chairs work very closely with Superintendent Dinolfo. We do the agenda setting for these meetings. We oversee the board committee assignments, the subcommittee assignments, and generally we're the co-chairs. We keep things running and moving, and we alternate turns chairing meetings and the council of chairs. So it is a 2-year term that you would be elected into. Should somebody be already in their second term of CPIC and they get elected to be the co-chair, their CPIC term would be extended by 1 more year. The time commitment, obviously there are extra meetings required. So Jen and I were meeting with Superintendent Dinolfo and Andrea roughly a week and a half prior to our meetings to go through agenda setting. And there are other meetings that come up as and when it's required. So it is a good number of extra meetings that we go through. And yeah, so with that, does anybody have any questions before I open the call to nominations? No? Okay, so I will now open the call to nominations. You can nominate yourself or you can nominate one of your fellow members.
I would like to nominate my fellow member, Janelle.
Okay, so that's one nomination. Do we have any other nominations?
I'll second that nomination.
Thank you. Okay, Janelle, do you accept the nomination?
Sure.
Awesome. Okay, does anybody else want to nominate anybody else for co-chair? Or yes, or you can nominate yourself. Going once, going twice. Procedural question, do we have to vote on closed ballot? I don't think you did for me last year. Okay, all right, so given that we only have one, so that is now an acclaimed position. So congratulations, Janelle. Okay, so that's done and dusted. Okay, the next item then is our election for the community representative. So just as a quick recap on the community representative position. So this person is responsible for supporting CPIC and advocating for parent and community engagement, bringing together community perspective into CPIC discussions and considerations, assisting CPIC in building partnerships and cooperation with the community to enhance student learning and well-being, providing particular expertise and information on their own background where appropriate. They may or may not be a parent of an HCDSB student, unlike all of us where as elected CPIC members, we are required to be a parent of a student. And the community representative may not be a member of the board. So with that in mind, we put out, when the agenda went out about a week and a half ago, we put a call just if anybody wanted to nominate anybody for community rep. We had one nomination for Janelle Thomas Smith. So I'll invite Janelle to make a few comments about herself. And then just to go over the process once she's finished, just really quick. This one is a closed ballot vote because technically we can vote not to fill the position. So it's not it doesn't default to an acclaimed position. So after Janelle speaks, she'll leave the room, we'll do our vote, and she will or will not come back in. Just to cover all eventualities.
So good evening, everyone. And welcome to the new members. We're happy to have you guys and fellow community partners and dedicated attendees. Today I stand before you not as an individual, but someone who founded Halton Black Voices. Our mission has been to amplify Black voices and ensure that they resonate in every corner of our community. I am acutely aware that the essence of CPIC is to serve and support parents. By integrating my perspective and connection with Halton Black Voices into this role, my aim is to significantly elevate parent engagement, specifically among the Black community. It is a fact that more inclusive engagement leads to richer experiences, diverse ideas, and stronger community ties. I have seen and understood the value speaker series, and I have seen and understand the value speaker series that the CPIC has run over the course of the school year. While it is a challenge to engage parents consistently, I believe that with my insight and connection, we can host events that resonates with underrepresented communities. Imagine sessions that deep dive into raising children who champion inclusivity or guiding parents on how to navigate challenging, unique experiences to Black families. With my active participation in CPIC, I envision a transformation in parent council support and broader parent engagement. Through my involvement, we can orchestrate events that cater to the specific needs of the Black communities and other marginalized groups, ensuring that every voice is heard and every concern is addressed. In essence, my participation in CPIC is not just about representation. It's about reshaping our engagement strategies, ensuring that every parent, especially those from the Black community, feels acknowledged, heard, and valued. It's about tapping into the vast potential of our diverse communities to offer sessions that are relevant, engaging, and empowering. In conclusion, I ask for your support. Not just as a representation of Halton Black Voices, but as someone who is dedicated to fostering a community where every parent feels an integral part of our shared journey. Together, let's ensure that our efforts in parent engagement leaves no one behind. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay, so we'll just ask you to step out for a moment.
Can I ask a question before we vote? Lauren, can I ask a question before we vote? From an overall perspective of the guidelines for the representative, the engagement is for all parents across the board, right? So is there a specific focus that each person who comes up to that role will engage in? So for example, she has a specific focus in terms of and 100% as a person of color, I get it. But what I'm wondering is there a guideline to get all parents involved, or is it going to be that specific focus that she's going to work on?
Generally, she can work on all of it.
Okay.
She brings that unique
perspective. Okay.
Her background and
right. Okay.
Come from, but it's not like she's going to be like.
The role feels so. Yeah. So the role is going to be for pretty much. Okay. Okay. Okay.
It's a position to have somebody who's not a parent, because somebody who's not a parent who is a community member brings
right.
perspective.
Yes, and different
initiatives. One position, so you're never going to get one position that covers
everything.
Perspective.
Fair enough.
This is different.
And there's a lot of experience there too. I was just wondering in general what the.
If it matters at all, she didn't say, but she actually has been our community rep for the last year.
I figured because the experience and the way she's able to.
She's been on.
Yeah. No. I got that. Yeah.
Okay, so Nancy and Andrea have tallied votes, and welcome aboard, Janelle. Okay. Okay, so just while she's getting settled in, yeah, there's a seat here. We have one empty. Okie doke. Okay, so I will pass it over to Superintendent Nolfa for our board update.
Thank you, Lauren. Before I begin the update, Andrea Swindon, our Senior Manager of Strategic Communications, is here. She's going to share some information with regards to PPM 170 and some resources that are on our website that we'll be sharing with you as CPIC members. And then we're going to invite Andrea to come to Council of Chairs. Is that what we said? We were going to, or if we feel that you as CPIC members have enough information to bring back to Catholic School Councils or within the municipality that you represent, that will be enough. And then Andrea won't come to Council of Chairs, but we just need to make sure this information gets out to all school communities. Okay, thanks, Andrea.
Turn on my mic. I don't know if you need it, Andrea. And hopefully I didn't mess you up by minimizing this. Okay, bear with me 2 seconds. So you'll see on your, by the way, my name is Andrea Swindon. I lead the Strategic Communications Department here at the board office. It's a pleasure to be here. I know some of you, not all of you, but it's this committee does amazing things, and I'm really happy to be able to be here. Tonight's presentation, although it's a requirement of a ministry PPM, which is a policy program memorandum, it also falls very much in line with our new MYSP, which is behind the chair of CPIC behind there. Under belonging, you'll see, I think it's like the 4th bullet, if you can read it from here. This is this committee, and our role here on this committee is very much about building relationships and building connections and sharing. So this falls in line with our MYSP. So for a little bit of background, on June 6th, the Ministry of Education issued Policy Program Memorandum PPM 170, which is entitled School Board Communication with Parents. And this PPM outlines requirements and provides direction to school boards on communication with parents to strengthen service standards, and ensure consistent, reliable information so that we have greater transparency and accountability. So what does PPM 170 require of school boards? Well, beginning this school year, school boards are required to provide parents and guardians with information to support their active engagement in their child's education. And I'll get to that exactly what that information is in a second. And the second prong of this is to develop and comply with a protocol setting out standards for acknowledging and responding to parent inquiries. So you'll see on your places, under your book was placed a flyer, which I hadn't, so I could show you what it looks like, but I inadvertently gave it away. So it looks just like what's there. This is the flyer provided by the Ministry of Education. It links to their resource, which is actually an online resource, which is great because as it changes, the QR code doesn't have to change. The information on the flyer doesn't have to change. It'll always be current and accurate. So this is called Your Child's Education, a Parent Guide to Ontario School System. So school boards are required to set up a mechanism to share this information with parents and guardians upon registration, and then again each year at the start of the school year. So what we did, we have posted this guide on our HCDSB website and on all school websites under the navigation that says parents. You'll see right underneath there, it's called a parent guide to our school system, and it'll show on our board website as new. It's highlighted so you can't really miss it. A link to this webpage was also sent via email from our board office to all parents and guardians. You parents who are here tonight will have noticed it, and then a message that it went out on August 30th. We've also provided sample messaging and PDFs of the flyers you have in your hand in English and also various languages. We have a toolkit that we share with school administrators so they can pull from there as they need for their specific community. We've also, so that takes care of the piece in terms of sharing information with current parents at the start of the school year. We also have updated the automatic response. So when a parent registers their child for the first time in our system, you may recall if you did it online, most of you here probably registered online. That was the first step. There's an automatic response that comes with that. We've updated that messaging to now include a blurb about this parent information, and we take them directly to the website. School boards also have been asked to share this information directly with their local parent involvement committees, hence why I'm here tonight. And as Superintendent Donalfo just noted, we also have to share this with our Catholic School Council chair. So we have been in discussion. It seems like a natural point to do it at the Council of Chairs meeting. Is that in October? But again, I'm happy to attend or whatever, well, however you feel you want to share this information. So the second part, so the first part of PPM deals with the parent information. They want to ensure parents have the information they need. And if you look on the flyer, the types of things that are covered in that guide are all outlined in there. But the second part is about developing a protocol. So school boards must develop and comply with a protocol that sets out standards for acknowledging and responding to parent-guardian inquiries. We currently have such a protocol. It's actually a policy. We call it V09. It's public concerns and complaints, but we will need to amend the policy. Right now, almost everything that's outlined in the PPM, we have covered in the policy. We do need to amend it because there are new timelines for acknowledgement and response that we need to include now. So it is currently on the policy committee schedule. And so for those of you who don't know, our trustees sit on the policy committee. So all of our trustees also sit on the policy committee. They meet monthly and they review new policies, amend existing policies. For this one, it's on the schedule to be brought to the October policy committee meeting. And once it's reviewed by the policy committee, it will be sent out for consultation through the stakeholder feedback. And you've probably, as parents, received whenever there's a policy or procedure that directly impacts parents, which often they do, we will send out an invitation to provide feedback. So how can Halton CPIC help? The first thing you can do is you can encourage Catholic School Councils to share the information about the ministry's parent guide with their parent communities. So that will be, probably beginning at the Council of Chairs meeting in October and then ongoing. I also would encourage you and strongly encourage you to share input on the upcoming amendments to Policy V09 through the policy stakeholder feedback process. And also if you could encourage Catholic School Councils to submit feedback, both as councils, but also to encourage their parent communities to share. I'm happy to take any questions.
I've got one for you. What's the current standard for responding and what's the new standard?
So currently, Policy V09 does not have a timeline in it. There is a timeline, but it's actually in a different policy that's regarding correspondence to the board. Policy V09 does not have it. So now we will have to include, there has to be a minimum. So if you've gone through it all, the PPM, there has to be a minimum, within 2 days, there has to be an initial response to parent, but then if the response, the more fulsome response is going to take longer than 5 days, then they have to provide, so if respond within 2 days. If the initial response is going to take longer than 5 days, suppose that they need information, they have to give you a timeline. They or we have to give you a timeline for when they can expect the response.
That's business.
Yes, business days.
Thank you.
I've got a question or two. Sandra, is it inclusive of things raised by school councils and this committee? Does that policy apply?
I'm not sure I understand. Sorry, Jerry.
So as a parent committee, as parent councils in our local schools, if something is raised, is it the same policy or protocol that will now be
Oh,
applied?
I see what you're saying,
Across the
rather
board.
than individual parents. So right now, that's a good point. Right now, VO9 does not stipulate that, but maybe that's feedback that we can take back, and maybe it needs to stipulate or be specific about if it's coming from a council, this is, not just individual. Right now, it really is geared towards individual parents or members of the community who send in.
Right.
But if you're talking about a council, I think that's a valid point.
Yeah, I mean, I'd suggest it should. I mean, so because if it doesn't, potentially doesn't, and the inquiries don't get handled in the same timely fashion, then instead of one inquiry from a school council, you'll probably get 10.
Right.
So just from a efficiency standpoint and
Right.
practicality. Sorry, I had another question, but it slipped my mind.
That's
I'll come
okay.
back. Yeah, thanks.
I ask one while you're waiting for that. So with the timeline implementation, what is the question's going to be if it's not followed, or how are we tracking that to make sure that they are responding within that 2-day, 5-day, whatnot? Is there a way for us to verify that it is being done? And if not,
So
what is the-
when you say for us to verify, do you mean as
Anybody-
individual
whoever's-
parents?
No, I guess, is there a tracking mechanism for if we say, within 2 days you have to have that initial response? If it's not being completed, how do we know that it's not being completed within those timelines?
How do you know? So individuals writing to the board, to staff or trustees, it doesn't matter, either or, they, part of why we need to share this information is that so parents will be aware of the policy. Parents and guardians and community members will be aware of the policy. If they're aware of the policy, they will know, look, I've just sent you an email. It's been more than 2 days. Where's my response? You're not following policy. I mean, we do have an obligation to follow policy. So I think if without getting too ahead of myself, like it depends on the situation. I mean, because there are different levels, you could be writing to the teacher. So if you're not hearing back from the teacher,
Right.
you would perhaps go to the principal at that point.
And then you have like an escalation process that you would follow.
And
if it
policy
wasn't
VO9
responded to.
does go through that chain.
Okay.
So that would be the next step.
Okay. Thank you.
That reminded me of my question, but I think you just answered it. So it applies at all levels within
Yes.
the board,
Yes.
right? And the board of trustees itself.
Yes.
Okay.
And the PPM's clear about that.
Thank you.
I just have a question. How is that communicated to parents that maybe don't know, the right person to contact first? I know in our own school, we have a lot of parents that will go, ahead of every teacher, principal, whatever, to, get some communication back because, I don't know, maybe they're not aware of what kind of steps to take first. So is that information communicated to parents? And if so, when and where and how?
It is. And so depending on, the circumstance, so let me give you an example. If you were to, if a parent were to write straight to the director of education about this teacher and this class, my child's in this class, that you can be sure that in the director's response, there would be, thank you for reaching out to me. Have you, here is our policy on concerns, how to raise concerns. Have you spoken with your child's teacher? So, and it would be the same. Have you spoken to the school principal? Have you, trustees get this all the time and they redirect to policy VO9. So it is partly our job as staff when it comes to whomever may receive the communication to ensure that before I respond, have you gone through the process? Because this is the proper process. And then often the message is redirecting them back to the policy so they can see the policy and they're aware of it. Because sometimes they don't know. They just don't know. They may want to, jump ahead of that and just get right to who's in charge of this school board, right? But sometimes they don't know the process. So part of our job is to redirect them. And that's why part of the ask here is you as CPIC can help us make sure that this policy, especially once it's amended, is clearly, that there is awareness, amongst the parent community about this. the problem.
Yeah, and just like a follow-up point, and I don't know if this is on our website or not, but even having something like, frequently asked questions, for parents to kind of know, so they don't go and jump ahead. And I know in just from experiences within our own school that there's a lot of parents that don't want to go to the teacher because there's fear of, not necessarily retaliation, but there's an uncomfortableness there where they don't want to put their child in, that kind of position. So is there alternative methods if you can't, to skip one portion of that kind of routine if possible? I don't know if I'm
I do understand I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And again, I think our school administrators, our principals are very good at kind of navigating those situations. So I think, if there were an absolute, I don't know, fear of reprisal, I don't know what it could be. I think that the school principal would have to consider that. The first course of our hope is always that the whatever the situation is will be resolved at the level where it is. That's always the hope. But the principal, your school principal, is always a safe place to go. And they may just, send you right back again and say, you really do need to speak to the teacher. I hear what you're saying, but the teacher needs to be aware of this, and there's a way of doing that. But again, that's our first our preference is to manage the situation, to resolve it, to seek resolution where it began. And I don't know if there was another. Yes.
Thank you for clarifying all the different parties that applies to. Because that was kind of my question as well initially. Now, the thought that I'm having is, if this applies to the teachers as well, what if they begin to get overwhelmed with sort of frequency of these types of emails and sort of, documenting all this follow-up, and how does that take away from sort of their hours with teaching the children and their preparations and things like that? Is there any thought being put into that particular group of staff?
The PPM does not address that. Not that that's not valid entirely. The PPM is very focused on parents and guardians getting information where they need it, and it's focused on accountability and transparency. And I hear what you're saying. I hear what's the flip side of that. Similar to it may be the principal too. Maybe you imagine if a teacher has 30 students in their class, the principal has 900 students in their school. So at any given time, so I understand that. So I don't know. That's the initial. So if you're referring to the timelines when you speak to this, it's the initial 2 days might seem, wow, that's not a lot of time, but keep in mind, it's an initial response. It's an acknowledgement. Oftentimes when emails come in, it'll go 2 weeks before a response is even received, and people start to think, did you get my email? And they'll start sending it back. So what this will say, which one of our policies does say already, is just acknowledge within two business days, just say, I have received your email. Thank you for reaching out. I will need to look into this, or I will need to get more information, or I will be able to respond more fully or provide more fulsome response at such and such a time.
So just to build on that, a lot of teachers use, the Remind app and all these other areas of communication. So will then parents just have to go to emailing specific concerns or complaints to sort of follow the policy?
It doesn't speak to that right now. No. I don't know if Superintendent Denolfo has anything to add, but it does not talk about the format right now.
Whichever platform, and there's many platforms that we actually don't approve for teachers to use. Okay, so there's something that's coming down to make sure that the platforms that teachers are using to communicate with parents is something that's board approved, or that the privacy and confidentiality of child and families is upheld. Okay, so we'll make sure the teachers are getting all of this too, to say these are board approved apps that you can use, and these ones may not be. Okay. I think the whole thing behind this PPM is to really address, if there's a concern, is there a process? But like Andrea said, we already had this process in place So it's just we have to make some amendments to it, but we've always had this in place. And I believe it's been 48 hours. We're supposed to be acknowledging an email. So I think email is the appropriate. And I do know that teachers have other apps that they use. Just they have to be aligned to what we have said as a board that we're using. Okay.
So is it fair to say it applies to the online reporting tool as well?
Oh, do you mean the online reporting tool for bullying and or?
Yeah, or any incident?
So, I'm not sure if that would apply, to be honest with you. That has separate, we do have separate, we have separate timelines in place for the online reporting tool, but I don't know if it's, I mean, it could apply. It could.
Yeah.
It depends
So
on
it's
the
just, I
situation.
just pulled it up quickly out of curiosity, and it's
Yeah.
it's 3 days in there. So I just wonder if that would be aligned.
That's a good.
Just something to take away. It doesn't have to be answered now. Yeah.
That's a good.
I also noted too that it, if something's raised and during breaks, holidays, summer, that you shouldn't expect a response. But do you know how it works under the new PPM?
The PPM does speak to business days, so I guess holidays would come into play if people aren't seeing their emails.
I mean school, like board breaks, not like Thanksgiving, but like Christmas break for 2 weeks,
Right.
March break,
So
summer.
So during Christmas break, for instance, I think that's reasonable because during Christmas break, we wouldn't be expecting teachers or principals to be looking at their email to respond, to be honest with you. So I think it makes sense and it should be incorporated in the policy that it would, that way, you know, it's within 2 business days, but not including board holidays. Right? But again, I'm getting ahead of myself because that policy, it's right now being looked at, reviewed. It will be before the policy committee in October. There may be, before it goes out for stakeholder feedback, there may be different iterations of, you know, and interpretations. And I mean, this is good feedback, what we're getting tonight, that we can definitely raise with the policy working group. But no problem.
Can I just say that based on the sheer knowledge that you have, that my recommendation would be that you'd make a much better presenter at the council chair meeting than I would.
Strongly agree.
I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Oh, no. I'm happy to attend.
Yeah.
No. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Andrea.
Thanks, Andrea.
Okay, and we're just going to change up the order of the agenda a bit because Denise needs to leave in like 4 minutes. So we're going to let her go next with the OAPSI update, and then we'll come back to Superintendent Dinolfo.
Thank you. So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Denise Grell-Teddy. I am the Halton Director for OAPSI. And because there's a lot of new faces on this committee, the CPIC committee, I've given you a handout. Sorry, Marlon, I should pass one over to yourself and John. And anyone who didn't get one, I'll just keep passing. So the Ontario Association for Parents in Catholic Education is what OAPSI stands for in terms of its acronym. And this handout gives you an overview of what the organization is all about. I am the Halton director, but there are directors that sit from boards across the province of Ontario in terms of their respective regions. I do encourage you to read through this. It's an overview of what we do, who we are, in terms of the Catholic parent engagement, the only one recognized by the Ministry of Education. You've probably heard of OAPSI reps, if you haven't, in terms of your own particular school councils, which I'm in the midst in the next couple of weeks as parent councils from the various schools get together, looking for those names and looking for changes, if necessary, to be put forth towards myself. The benefits for the OAPSI rep are numerous in terms of joining. One of them is, of course, being able to communicate information from OAPSI, the organization, from the provincial levels, which is where I sit at the board level, down to the school council levels, so that parents across the Halton Catholic District School Board community can get that information and share. This year, so last year was our 85th anniversary of the organization, so it's been a long-standing organization. This year, our theme is sort of, as we move forward with the new school year's parent possibilities. So we'll be working fairly shortly in terms of the actual board of directors coming together for a board of directors meeting. I am the chair of that organization. So I have been working over the summer with the co-executive directors. I do have a meeting on Wednesday to put forth more of the information that will come to OAPSI reps, the first meeting of OAPSI reps for Halton. All of this information, I encourage you to go to the OAPSI website. There's a vast, I guess, a repository of information for all parents. So if you go, there's faith resources, there's parent engagement resources. They're all there, not just for OAPSI reps to communicate to the individual student school councils, but also for any of you that you might find, beneficial, that you can also pass along to the communities. We have not yet set a date for a conference that will be coming up. So as part of an OAPSI rep, you have the benefit of joining the annual conference, as well as I will hold meetings through OAPSI for those reps for Halton. So again, it's certainly great to be back on CPIC. I would like to thank in advance this particular committee for allowing me a voice to convey the information every month that I can from OAPSI, as well as the support of the board, the trustees, because it means a lot to OAPSI to have that as we go forth. So please, if you have any questions, you can certainly email me at halton@oapsi.org. My name is on the, and all the listing is on the OAPSI website of all the board of directors, and contact information there as well. So thank you so much, and I look forward to being able to tell you what's coming on in terms of OAPSI month by month. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll pass it back to Superintendent Adolfo now for the board update.
Thanks, Lauren. Before we begin, I don't know if everybody has had an opportunity to introduce themselves, say what school community you are from. So I think that's really important that we do that before we go any further, okay?
So before I leave, I'll start. It's okay. Before I go, so my name is Denise Teddy. I have 3 children, 1 left in the board at Corpus Christi in grade 12.
Hi, I'm Marvin Duat. I'm a Milton trustee and chair of the board, and I've been involved with CPIC for 6 years right now, and before that for another 7 or 8 years prior to that, and happy to be supporting CPIC and all that CPIC does. Wonderful work. Thank you.
I'm John Klein. I'm the Director of Education for the board. So I have 3 children myself, but they're all grown out of the elementary and secondary school system. I'm very glad to be here and very glad to be part of this amazing board.
My name is Janelle Thomas-Smith. I have 1 son on the board. He goes to Holy Trinity, and I'm a community rep.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anne Marie Melchiona. I am the principal of St. Scholastica School in Milton, and I also have 3 children, 2 of which have graduated from the board, and 1 is still at St. Kateri.
I think I've met everybody, but I'm Nancy D'Onofrio. I'm superintendent with responsibility to work together with all of you on CPIC. I too have children who have graduated from Halton Catholic, and I'm proud that my children are students who actually went through a great system. Different times, definitely different times, and I'm thrilled to continue to work together with you this year. This is an amazing committee, but it's the work we do together to engage our parents for what our priorities are as a board, but also as a committee. Okay, so I hope that the work we do together is to support parent engagement for the goals that we have for this year.
Hi, everybody. Jerry Bergen. My daughter just started grade 9 at STA, so I'm very excited for her high school. And I'm a product of the board myself, all the way from kindergarten at Holy Rosary in Milton, right through to grade 13 in Loyola. So I'm very proud of that fact. And I'm in my 3rd term CPIC, 6th year, and I'm looking around the room and I'm realizing I'm like the dad of the parent members, if not the granddad. Jeez. So yeah, no, it's been great. I mean, the committee's done a lot in that 6 years. It's grown a lot and achieved a lot, and very proud to still be part of it.
Okay, so okay, it's been a day. I'm Lauren. So I'm a parent at St. Matt. Both of my kids are there, grade 1 and grade 4. I myself am a product of the board as well, from JK and SK, and then we moved for 3 years, and then I came back for grade 4. So I was at St. Marguerite, which I think is your turf. And then I graduated from STA, and I was actually the first year of the double cohort. So I was the grade 12 guinea pig. Yeah, you were. Okay, there's a few of us. Awesome. This is my 3rd year on CPIC, my 2nd year as co-chair. It's been a ride. It's been a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it, and yeah, looking forward to what's ahead of us.
I'm Emily Runyons. I have a daughter at Corpus Christi who is grade 12 this year. This is my 14th year on a parent council. I'm the chair at, well, I guess I got to get renominated, hopefully, chair for Corpus. And I'm not a product of the Halton board. Hamilton Wentworth Catholic, double cohort. And this is my 2nd year on CPIC and my last year, sadly, because I won't have any more kids on the board. But it's been really fun to be here, and I just love being involved, and hopefully it's a good year.
Hi, everyone. My name is Janelle Delbove. I have 3 kids in the board. They are all at St. Christopher. I have twin daughters who are in grade 7, and my son is in grade 8. So bridging over to high school next year, and a little bit nervous about that. At St. Chris, I have been on council since my kids were in kindergarten. I have been the chair for the last, I don't know how many years, I've lost count. This is my 3rd year on this committee, and apparently I'm the co-chair. So yeah, looking forward to getting to know all you guys and doing some good work this year. So welcome.
Hi everyone, my name is Olabi Taiwo. I'm a first-time CPIC member. I have a boy and a girl at St. John's, Burlington, and then I rep Burlington. I'm hoping to catch up on proceedings, learn from everyone, and then make some good contribution as well. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Barbara. I have 4 sons, so mine are a bit younger, 11, 9, 4, and 1. And I'm out at St. Marguerite, where I have been on council for the last 4 years. I'd love to hear how you guys can do both when meetings are on Mondays, but maybe that's talk for later. And so I really enjoyed it. I've always been involved. I do like regular volunteer work in the community with public health, and I work in healthcare. And I'm excited to get to know you guys and focus on Catholic education for our Oakville and Halton kids.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angelo Cimino. I have a daughter in grade 4 at the new Catholic school, St. Cecilia. Looking forward to working with everyone here. Just started technically in June, so this is like my really first real meeting kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to, helping just put out the good word of Catholic education, reinforce all the goals. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Wosu. I have two kids at the board, one in grade 9. Oh, sorry, grade 10. Wow. She's going to kill me. I forgot. Time flies, eh? So she's at SFS, and my son is in grade 7 at Lumen Christi. And this is my third year here, and I also volunteer. Actually, I sit on the Catholic School Board too, at the Parent Council, sorry, at Lumen Christi as well. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to meeting all the wonderful new people here as well. So thank you, everyone.
I'm Becca. I have a little one at Holy Cross up in Georgetown. I am a product of Wellington Catholic District School Board all the way through. And I was also a double cohort person. I have one question. Did you guys get res when you went to university right away? That's good, because we had a lot of people at Brock who did not. So, but yeah, I'm excited to do this new adventure. My background, I've been an electa rep for a long time at my school. So this is something different.
Jacqueline Venditello. I have two kids. Both are product of Halston Catholic. One graduated a few years ago. Is in denial that she graduated a few years ago. Would love to go back to high school if she could. UFT is not living up to her standards, apparently. And my younger one just started grade 9 at STK. So I'm not on that board yet, but I do plan to be on there. And it's my first year. Thank you.
It was great to get to know all of you. So everybody has children that are in our system and at least an experience that you can bring to this committee. So thank you for that. Okay, for the update, where did it go now? My goodness. Okay. So just before I begin, I really felt, even preparing this, I started on CPIC during the pandemic. And so every year it was either something about the pandemic or coming out of the pandemic. And even with all the professional development that the ministry has sent to us to start the school year, I finally feel we're coming back to what we're really about is the academics that we're doing for the students. So that really came out through what the PD we had to do on that first PA day. So I'm happy that we're back to those academic basics that we really need to focus on. What we also have learned, though, is the impact of the pandemic has had a great impact on the mental health and well-being of our students and our staff and probably you as parents. And so that's still at the forefront of everything that we do, okay? Enabling all students to reach their full potential is a priority for our educators across all of our schools. Students' health and well-being contribute to their ability to learn in all subjects, and that learning in turn contributes to their overall well-being. At all of our schools and all our classrooms, our goals are to develop the spiritual, cognitive, emotional, physical, and social skills of all our students. When I provide the update each month that we have a meeting, I'm going to align it to our pillars. As Andrea had shared, each of our pillars has specific goals, okay? And how we developed our pillars was through stakeholder feedback from parents, from community. And everybody told us achieving's at the top, okay? So we will always focus on our achieving. New to our pillars, because we always had achieving, believing, and belonging, is becoming. So this new multi-year strategic plan, that's the new pillar that we have, okay? So I will try to bring updates to you along the lines of the 4 pillars. So under achieving, we're excited to have all our students back. New this year for our kindergarten to grade 2 students, all students will be screened with the universal early reading screening tool by their classroom teacher. And that is so the teachers can understand the gaps or where the students are at as readers so that we can develop a program to meet their needs. Okay, that's universal for all students. We've always done diagnostic assessments for reading, writing, and mathematics across Halton schools. So doing an assessment is not new for us. It's this screening tool that's new for us, and our teachers are being in-serviced all next week about how to put it into practice in the classroom. As a parent, the teacher will communicate with you. They may not communicate with you exactly that reading level, but they'll give you an indication if there's a gap or where the student is at, so that you can still work on with the reading with your child. Okay. For parents of children in grade 4 and 7, those are the students who wrote EQAO in May and June of last year. You will get these results by the end of September. Okay, so that's what we've been told through EQAO, is that it should be out to you at that time. In our secondary schools, all students receive their timetable before the start of the school year and are meeting with their guidance counselors if they had to make any changes. Over the summer, over 5,000 of our secondary students participated in e-learning through some course that they selected that our board was offering over the summer, which was great to see that many students actually choosing to do a course in the summer. We're definitely seeing our secondary students, because of the pandemic, they are really not sure which path they're going. And so any opportunity to take another course or create a space on their timetable during the school year is really helpful for them. And we're encouraging them to do that because we have the means to do it. So we're encouraging them. As presented to those who were a part of CPIC last year, our superintendent, Elm DeSordo, talked about e-learning. So to graduate from high school, students must take 2 e-learning courses as part of their 30 credits to get their Ontario Secondary School Graduation Diploma. So we are encouraging the students to take. We will not be offering e-learning for grade 9 students, not as many courses in grade 10, but we have more courses in grade 11 and 12. And if there is a specific course that we may not be offering in Halton Catholic, we do belong to a consortium of other boards where our students can take that e-learning course in another board. And if, for example, we have a space in our classes of e-learning, because those classes could have up to 30 students, then we may take other students into our system. And we have data to show that our students who have taken e-learning courses, be it with our teachers, have done very, very well. And if they've taken it with other school boards, they've done even better. Okay, so it is working for some of our students. What we're seeing is a lot of our students, traditionally it's 30 credits to get your diploma. We're seeing students take 34 credits, like use as many spaces as they can. It gives them more opportunities for whatever they decide to do post-secondary. But at the secondary level, we do have new curriculum for the D-Stream grade 9 English and French courses. Last year we received the math, and so we're doing professional development with our teachers so they're prepared to teach the students in the classrooms. We also have a new grade 9 geography D-Stream course, a new grade 9 and 10 business studies and technological education curriculum. There's been an update to the grade 10 mental health literacy through the careers course. So in grade 10, there's a careers and civics course that the students take. There is a mental health literacy component to it that has been updated. A lot of the things that we're doing in our high schools is to help prepare the students for whatever potential pathway they're choosing. And we're trying to make connections to skilled trades, transferable skills, and apprenticeship for those students who that's the path they want. They come into our high school, they're not sure what they want to do. We have pathways teachers, student success teachers who help guide them. We have a lot of CHISM programs in all our high schools, and all of them are up and running. I apologize, even my computer isn't working tonight. Ugh. I know I said, okay. Under believing we are distinctly Catholic, we've entered year 3 of our theological theme, love kindness, as Jillian had shared. Love that this is our theme coming into this year. This is the 3rd year, and each year we had act justly, walk humbly, love kindness, and to know that this is our focus for this year, that we're going to be integrating that into everything that we do in our classrooms and throughout our school communities. All schools have begun or will begin the school year with an open liturgy or mass, depending on the planning that they did with their local parish priest. This was done in the spring. They all have a faith and sacramental plan for the school year. Okay. Under belonging, we are communities that accompany. We opened our 3 newest elementary schools, St. Cecilia and North Oakville, St. Veronica and St. Josephine Bakita and West Milton, and St. Katir of Tekakwitha has finally moved into its new building in Milton. So we're pretty excited about that. We also welcomed over 1,700 year 1 kindergarten students who started, everybody was in school today. So everybody was in school today. And we have 21,873 students across our 48 elementary schools. We have 14,579 secondary students across our 10 secondary schools. Our enrollment in secondary school has gone up from where we were last year. We've taken on probably about 400 more students. It's predominantly in grade 9, but across the system, which is wonderful. Our human resource department has worked diligently through the summer to ensure all our schools have all the educators in place to start the new year of learning. There are a couple schools where new enrollment came in through the summer. So over the summer between elementary and secondary, we took on about 700 registrations. The fact that we have online registrations, so is the registration right now open for this year? We will open next year's registration in November because it's open all year long. Some parents may wait, or because we're moving new into the community. That's why we have so much registration through the summer. So what happens, the impact on elementary is there is some schools that will have additional teachers added, and we may have to do some reorganizations. It's not many schools. Those parents will be communicated well in advance of those changes. All of our schools have support through a child and youth counselor and a social worker. And for students who are part of, who have an education plan, an individual education plan, there were transition meetings at the school either in late August or beginning of September to help those diverse learners with that transition back to school. We have done that for many years and see the success of that. The safety of our students in our schools is most important daily. Our schools are well supervised by staff. We have our code of conduct. We have our emergency response plans in place, and all of our elementary buildings are locked all day long. We have a new procedure for the use of cell phones in our schools. So as parents, you probably receive that communication from your schools. What's new this year is that all elementary students from kindergarten to grade 8 cannot have their cell phone device on them during the school day. It has to be locked, stored, put away, and out of sight. Okay, that comes from the legislation. So from PPM 128, it clearly stipulates that requirement. And so the schools are communicating with parents all those pieces, and so that parents are aware. Okay. For the older grades, grades 7 and 8, there may be a need to use a device for something. That's under the discretion of a teacher. So students may be asked to bring out their device if they're going to use it as to search or do something, or whatever the task is. That will be guided by a teacher to direct that. Okay. There is also new restrictions on social media. So which social media platforms students will be able to access if they're on a board device while they're working in the classroom. And again, that communication will come out from each school so that parents are aware. Okay. If there are concerns, or if we think this is another presentation that may be important that we do at Council of Chairs, if we feel the schools, maybe that this councils may need more information to take back to the parent community, we may consider that. I'll leave that up to you. Okay. Under the pillar becoming, we are on a journey together. So we're focused on ensuring equity and inclusion is embedded in all our policies to ensure that all students have the supports in place to dismantle inequities so that they can reach their full potential. Okay, so all of our policies, procedures, everything we do, we're reflective of, and if we have to adjust things to make sure there's opportunities for all. Any questions?
Hi.
I had a couple parents bring up some questions about the mandated tech credit in grade 9 and 10. With all of our courses in our, at least in our school, being very full, we've had a lot of students, that were being put into their secondary choices for their like optional credits. So they may not have gotten into that tech credit that they tried to get into because it was full. Is there any sort of priority for students who did not necessarily get into their first choice, did not get that tech credit in grade 9, going into grade 10? Does that make sense?
What I could say, first of all, and I think each school is unique, Emily, so I don't want to speak for every school, but definitely if there's students who wanted a tech course, they didn't get to take it because the courses were full. And where I would say a course could have been full, if the option sheets weren't completed in a timely manner. Because anything in terms of staffing and putting those teachers in place didn't happen till late in June. So courses could have, so it's no, now if people change their mind or through a July, August registration, they may not have got into that course. So that they are a priority. They will be a priority in grade 10, but they can't be late in getting that in because we staff at the end of June for the high schools based on the course selections. What comes in through the summer, we're adding, but again, now you're looking for different skills of teachers. And when you're talking about technical courses, things like that, they're a hot commodity. So it's just how do we get that many teachers with those skills to actually teach? And because every board's looking for those teachers. So the schools have to balance that. So the key is if they know their courses, get those option sheets early. We will make sure they're in courses by the end of June. What comes in the summer, that's where it falls off a bit. Okay.
I know, and just for example, we have a very popular cosmetology course. We have one teacher, one classroom for it. So it's very popular. So it's hard for, I think that's one of the courses that was so full that a lot of students didn't necessarily get into it as well. I mean, grade 9s. Right. So we had just some parents kind of questioning how it goes. Is there the priority? So you kind of answered that.
Also, Emily, one thing because of this year when the ministry put out that tech credit and we have to do it, we had to do, like every board had to do with what tech they could by teachers who had at spaces. But they're developing more tech courses for all the different pathways. So we'll see more courses in grade 9 and 10 evolve. It may not be good for the kids who are in grade 9 this year, but there will be more going forward.
As a double cohort, story of my life. I have more questions. So the next question is our secondary course timetables are not, they're delivered, a couple days or so, like the last week or the last day of August for whatever day, September 4th.
Yeah, they went out on Friday before Labor Day weekend at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
that's when they were ready to go.
Yeah, I'm just saying it doesn't give the students who may need to make timetable changes a lot of options. I know, just in my daughter's experience, she kind of wanted to do a bit of a pathway change. And we, had to meet with guidance, and by the time we kind of got everything organized, the other courses were full. I know that's due to, the limited sections and whatnot, but I'm wondering, is there not any option to have those timetables come out earlier?
Part of the problem is because of all the registrations we take in the summer.
Yeah.
So those, even though we build the schedules, because we take so much registration in the summer for secondary, it was over 400, it has a huge impact, okay? Remember, we staffed it in June. Now we've got 400 more kids to squeeze into what we staffed at that point. So it's hard. When you say that they want to meet with their guidance counselor, there's no opportunity to meet with their guidance counselor before September 1st. And if you did, good for you, because technically their first workday is September 1st. So there may be guidance counselors, but we don't have all the guidance counselors in at that point in time. So it's even hard for them. Okay. So that time frame, I'm going to be honest with you, it can't be any earlier than that, like that Friday before, because of how much registration we do in the summer. If we didn't do it different, right? And we could say, okay, we'll get those schedules, like they're done first week of July. Okay. But we take that much registration on, we have to revamp to fit them all in. Okay. Yeah.
I got one more. Yeah. And this is more of just a comment. The cell phone ban. I've got feedback just from my daughter on that. I know she said she said every single class, she's got to put them in the little cup, whatever it is, pocket. There's been a lot more engagement, and I was at the school today and briefly chatting with the principal, and he was saying that there's not any vaping in the bathrooms because the students are not texting each other to go meet. So
that's a good news story. I'm happy. That's out of a grade 12's mouth. I love that story. I love that. That is. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, I've got one. Just for my own curiosity, is there a max number of credits that students are allowed to take in high school?
There is. The maximum credit is 34. Once they reach 34, we encourage. Well, we give them you need to go to Thomas Merton to finish any additional credits you have. And the reason is we're funded that way. We're actually funded for 30. We can go up to 34, but realize that more than 34 is what's putting pressure on our classrooms as well. Okay, so we have Thomas Merton. Everything's available at Thomas Merton. So whatever course they want to take, they will be able to take at Thomas Merton.
Okay, so I give up. So you said that we're funded to 30, but they can take up to 34. Does that mean you get funding if they take the extra courses, or it's just like it's like here's some freebies?
Yeah. Okay. It's actually a huge impact. It's a cost to us. Okay.
Sorry, I was just going to say something.
Sorry.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead. I was just going back to visit the tech courses. I did want to say that my son took a summer school course against his wishes because I just thought he should do it. And as a result, I had to switch switch courses. So one, I was able, Syncreteria was great. They met with us the week before, but he was able to fill it in with the tech course from grade 10 because there was no prerequisite. So that was the interesting thing about the tech courses is that some of the tech ones in grade 10 don't have a prerequisite. So you can actually, as a grade 9, take that one without, we don't know he hasn't taken the course yet. We'll see how that goes. But that was an interesting piece with the tech piece that quite a few of them, you didn't need a prerequisite for it. So you were able to do it. Just want to give that feedback in case anything ever came up. So.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So 3 questions, just kind of bullet. Just clarity. I think I missed when you were referring to the teachers. Were additional teachers hired after school started? I guess like so far. I don't really know how it works in terms of, their classes are arranged in June-ish. You get enrollments and then, classes change those first 2 weeks. So there might be additional teachers, as you mentioned. So was there hiring able to happen?
There was a lot of hiring through the summer. Even though we had all the planning, secondary is one area, elementary is different. We were still placing teachers into assignments into July and August and continuing right now. First of all, because there's attrition. There's people who took jobs at other boards. There's people who chose to retire. There's people who take leaves. So despite everything, they're human and they have those choices. And so it's our responsibility to fill them. Okay. So we always want, what I do know is that all our elementary classrooms had an educator in the room on the first day of school. Okay, it may not be your permanent teacher because a teacher might be on a leave or because there's a transition. If they may have been awarded a position, they stayed in that position until we could make sure we filled this position and then those transition. But I think most of them are settled now. But I'll be honest with you, even this week, I've already heard that people are having opportunities to take jobs on other boards and are doing that, or there's personal leaves that they're taking. And so we are continuing to do that. But our HR team is working endlessly to make sure all our educators are in place.
And the hiring, are this permanent roles? Because I know last year there was some talk about this elementary level that there weren't a lot of permanent postings like towards the end of the school year. I don't know, like again,
there's a lot of permanent postings. We had a lot.
There was lots of permanent roles. Okay. And what's the max class size for elementary kids? Like,
So
what's the general, how does it work?
So for kindergarten, 32, it can go up to 32. Okay. Well, 29, then 10% of the classrooms could be 32. Okay. For grade 1 to 3, we staff at 20, but they can go up as high as 23, but only 10%. So one school might have classes of 23, another and I oversee that portfolio, we can't go over. You won't have a primary class or a grade 3-4 class over 23. Grade 4 to 8, It's an average of 24.5 across the system. So, because I oversee it, we've had classes that are lower than 24.5, and the highest we had last year was one class of 33. We've had a couple of 32. In those cases, it's a school's choice where the administration with the teachers made that decision not to have a split grade. So they're low enrollment or there's a lower population in the school, but that same grade wants to be together. It's usually in grade 7 or 8 to keep the same 8 kids together. The principals do a great job balancing that. They know their kids, they balance it out. So don't, anything higher than 33 you won't see, okay, for junior intermediate, but it's a range between 24.5 to 33, okay?
Sorry, I have one more. I have a two-part question.
It's an average.
Based on the strain with the funding for 30 credits and, you know, students potentially taking more and the classroom sizes and whatnot. So are we looking at having an option for more online learning when you do have that strain for the courses that can be taken online, such as your English, your maths and stuff like that?
So this year right now, Halton Catholic has 48 e-learning courses, okay? Our goal is to get to 150. And so we are going to, but if there's a student who wants a course that we're not offering, we have the consortium that we can get students into. So there still are students, but they maybe have their teacher isn't part of Halton Catholic, okay? Okay. Yes.
Oh, it will be on the Catholic board.
Catholic board.
Okay, okay. Yeah. And then the other question I had was, I was told that grades 11 and 12, where it's usually you get funding for 8 credits per student. Now you have funding for 7 in person, and the one is the online. Is that?
It doesn't work that way. It's actually you're funded for the whole high school. So the funding is like 7.175. That's how the funding is. That's our formula. Because our students, a third of the students are supposed to be in an e-learning course.
Okay.
So that's how the funding is. Okay. But our e-learning courses, they're 30 to 1 is how they're staffed.
As opposed to 24.
It's 23 for high school.
Oh, okay.
High school's 23. That's an average though. In our high schools, there's so many courses. You've got some courses that have 19 students. Some courses even have 15 students, 12 students. Then you have some that are at 30. Okay, so it's an average.
Okay.
Okay, so, and again, they can go up to 33. They wouldn't be higher than 33. Our tech courses can't be higher than 24.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Angelo?
Hi. Yes. So I had a question. I don't know if you know the exact numbers or just kind of more like in a growing community of where I'm at in North Oakville. How does the board plan for the growing community, like without actually knowing who is actually Catholic and coming into the board? Because just speaking from Dundas and Trafalgar area, all those condos coming up and the closing dates are starting to actually come to fruition. So I don't know, how do you guys plan or forecast how many students would be coming that way?
So we have a planning department who that's their job and they do all of that. So specifically, I could share this with you, Angelo, because I would do this all the time with them, is the planning projection for St. Cecilia could be up to 1,000 students, okay, because of the growth. You asked the question about how do we know, are these students Catholic? Well, we have a requirement. One parent at least has to be Catholic or the child has to be Catholic, so baptized, okay? That's what our policy is, okay? So that criteria is still upheld, okay?
I guess it's just like, how would you forecast it? Like just to go to like high rise, 400 units, approximately 2.5 people per unit. So like, let's just say it's 1,000 people. They have, each unit has at least one kid, but then how do you know those 400 kids, how many are Catholic? It's an educated guess, obviously, but.
It is, but they actually have formulas and projections and trends that they follow. So they too work with understanding growth and they know what the plans are in Oakville and all the municipalities. Okay, so one thing I can say is our schools, we have large schools, which is great, okay, because when it's too small, there's sweet gems being too small, but you can't have all the things that a larger school can have. I think our facilities department, together with planning, has done some great planning for our new school builds. So St. Cecilia, for example, is over 400. St. Josephine Bakhita is just over 100. St. Veronica just over 200. We have space to grow. Those schools are all been built to accommodate 650 to 700 students. If the schools are too full, we can do portables on that site. And then again, facilities and planning puts that plan out on new builds. So there's still plans for new builds. Okay. At one time, the plan had for North Oakville all the way to Milton about 16 schools to fill all that space. We won't need 16 schools, but they're going to use the data to show based on what they get. Okay, whatever they're using from whatever builders or whatever the city of Burlington or Oakville is providing to them to understand how many people are coming in. That's how we further develop. Okay.
Okay.
So one thing I can say to you, like, you know, in your area, you've got a lot of growth happening, but St. Gregory didn't get to being over 1,000 where St. Scholastica did. And we've got 2 schools now that sort of divided that up. Okay. So I think St. Cecilia has been open at a great time, but there was going to be more growth north of that. And we have plans for schools for that too.
And I think just to follow up to that, when is it on when we draw the actual lines of whom goes where to which school? Is that decided on a yearly basis, or is that on a contingency based on volume of students?
So a boundary review happens, for example, when we're building a new school, we'll do that. But also when a school's at capacity, and we have to redo a boundary review. So at the board meeting, and maybe Marvin's going to speak to this, in Georgetown, there's going to be a big boundary review because all of those schools are at capacity. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that's everything. So thank you, Superintendent Dinolfo. So next up is our board update from Trustee Dewar.
Good evening, everyone. Warm welcome to you and your child for this academic year. Hope you and your families have had a nice, wonderful, and relaxing summer. Welcome to all our new CPIC members. And I've been hearing the conversation, great discussion, great questions. And we look forward to having this kind of questions in future too. Our students and staff have had a nice transition back to school, and we look forward to an exciting new school year where we will stay focused on our new multi-year strategic plan that you have heard about, and we'll focus on excellence in education. Education is a core competency, and we will focus on that. We will provide abundant opportunities to all students to explore their God-given talents to their full potential in our school board. We have had one board meeting so far. We started off on day one, September 3rd, and this is that's why this report is going to be a really short report. At the September 3rd board meeting, we had a staff presentation and an update on the rollout of the new multi-year strategic plan. We look forward to the implementation of this strategic plan, the monitoring of the plan, and regular reports of this plan to the Board of Trustees. This is our focus area, and we will try to keep a laser focus on what we need to achieve in the years to come. There was a staff report at the same board meeting on the initiation of a boundary review in Halton Hills in Georgetown. So we have exciting news in Georgetown. We're going to have a new school there. When you talk about that, then we need to reallocate the students to those schools. That will be an action item in the next board meeting. Some good news for you in Oakville. There was a report presented at the last board meeting on 2024 capital priorities. Was presented at the last board meeting, and some good news is that North Oakville #1 is our topmost priority. So we are looking at a new school in Oakville. That's a topmost priority in the high growth area north of Dundas and Trafalgar, that area. Our second priority is already our Victory in Milton. It's one of the older school in Milton, and we are looking at expanding that. And the third priority is again North Oakville. So we are looking at another school. So 3 priorities are being submitted to the ministry, and you're right, there's a growth. Just to add to what Superintendent Dinolfo said, we have a very experienced planning department, and there's lots that happens behind the scene. There's interaction with the when you buy a new home, you go and you have to allocate your taxes. MPAC. So they get data from there, and that's how they try to understand and project data. We plan data for 5 years up to 25 years. So you'll see in boundary reviews, they plan and project all the data. So there's lots of things happening behind the scene, and it's lots of iterations that happen. things change the process, and so lots of good things happening for North Oakville. And again, that's my report. It was a very short board meeting, and happy to answer any questions which you may have. I'll try my best. Thank you.
Hi, Marvin. Kind of getting back to the planning phase, I'm curious about sort of that North Oakville, the high school plan. I know in the last report that I read a year or two ago, there was just this like one little comment saying there weren't enough demographics to sort of talk about a build date. Any kind of, do you have any info on that? What's
Not
like
for
kind
high
of the
school.
plan?
Not for high school as of now. Does staff have any idea? That's been an info.
On that capital plan that was presented last week, it has it for the new high school in Oakville. For projected is 2029. That's where we're
Very
but-
curious because like HT is supposed to be like at like 110% projected if you look at those reports.
Yeah.
So, you know, given my kids' ages, thank you.
Okay, so I think that's everything. Okay, so thank you very much. Okay, but I need to actually look at my tablet for this. Okay, so the next two sections, I think we're gonna just also conscious that it's 8:45. We usually don't go quite this late. But just looking at the next two sections of the agenda, which is the CPIC subcommittees and the CPIC representation on board committees. Obviously, nobody has any updates on any of that yet, so I'm not going to bother going one for one. But what I will do is just ask for a volunteer from each of the subcommittees to set up a preliminary meeting with their subcommittees, and then at that meeting you can determine who's actually going to be the leader for that subcommittee. That's generally the person who then gives the updates in the meetings and that in these meetings and that kind of thing. That's at least for our CPIC subcommittees. The CPIC representation on board committees, Nancy, I assume it'll just be, people will get in touch with us when those committees are ready to meet.
Yes, you have given all the names of the CPIC members on which board committees that they wanted to be on, or because there were spaces that we could put people on. We all bring those names to the superintendents who have those committees, and then they'll get in contact with you.
Okay, so can I just very quickly get someone from school council support to set up your first one? Hi, Janelle. Or Emily's going to do it? Okay. And for parent community engagement? Jacqueline, thank you. And Becca will chat. Okay, so that goes through those two sections. Okay, so moving on to our discussion items. So item 9.1 is around our bylaws. Jerry, I'm going to put you on the spot. So this is kind of something that we've kind of tossed around a little bit for the last couple of years. Is looking at our bylaws. And we thought first meeting of the year, it's going to be worth putting something in so we can actually look at discussing it and actually creating a proper subcommittee. So I was going to throw that over to you to talk about a little more because that's always kind of been your pet project.
Yeah, I mean, so we had a bylaw subcommittee, a couple of years ago, and at that time we undertook to revamp the bylaws to kind of there was some contradiction within the bylaws, there was some duplication within the bylaws, so it was a bit of a cleanup exercise more than anything, and got it to a pretty good state. But we didn't do a whole lot with bylaws last year, so it probably is timely to bring some focus back to it. So I'm absolutely in favor of having a committee, and I'm happy to help lead it. So.
Okay, so what I'll do for that then is just put out, generally we do a subcommittee usually has, sort of 3 odd members. It doesn't really need to be too much bigger than that. If you're interested in working with Jerry on kind of revamping our bylaws, just send an email to me. You can send it to my personal or to the cpic@hcdsb.org address. And I'll just include a line on why you want to be on it in case we get half the people here wanting to be on it. And then I'll chat with Jerry and we'll put together the subcommittee and send an email out with an update.
And what I'd say by way of a sales pitch would be so. First of all, if you've ever sat on boards or committees yourself in the past and are familiar with their functioning and to have some experience, it'd be great to bring that to the table. And it's also a very good way to really become intimately familiar with how committees work should run and function. So if you have an interest in acquiring that knowledge while kind of digging into the weeds, then that's a great reason to join too. I mean, I suggest we probably only need a committee of 3. I would say would be all we need, but just a couple of thoughts to take away.
Is this for CPIC bylaws or?
Yes.
Okay.
We're going to rewrite the boards, everything. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so specifically for the CPIC bylaws. Okay, any other questions on that? No, okay, cool. All right, next item under discussion is Council of Chairs, which is set for October the something of 2024. 23rd? 23rd, I think. I think it's the 23rd, it's that Wednesday. Yes. Okay, wicked. So we already have kind of 2 topics that were sort of thrown around. You said Superintendent Bakaich was happy to present on the cell phone vaping policy. Cool. We've just determined that Andrea is going to present. And then we had discussed having a mental health and attendance support presentation by the CYCs and the school social workers. Usually 3 presentations is kind of where we max out for Council of Chairs, especially for that first one where we try to allow a good chunk of networking time for the family of schools to get together. The other thing that I wanted to kind of highlight in this section was over the summer, Nancy and I had a lot of conversations about how to kind of try to breathe a little bit more life into the Council of Chairs. The first one is always really good, and then the last 2 kind of tend to kind of taper a little bit. It's also particularly the May one, which just gets busy with, spring events starting up and all that kind of stuff. But so we decided we would kind of try to change up how we're going to do Council of Chairs this year. So the first one will be sort of the more traditional one where we'll ask for each school council to send 2 members, ideally their chair / co-chair. If it's only a chair, bring someone else from council. If your chair or co-chair can't make it, bring someone else from council, but we want each school to have 2 council members present at the first Council of Chairs so that each school has a really good representation. And then it's also not just all on one person to bring stuff back. In addition, the school principals will be at that first one. We've had some feedback from the principals that it's like a lot of the information they already get from their other professional development stuff, so they don't massively need to be at the rest of them. We said for the first one, it's really good for the community, the engagement, all of those connections, but we're not going to require the principals to be at the one in February and then the one in May. Then for the one in February, the plan will be to do it in person, but with an option to switch to virtual if it's looking like terrible weather. But also because sometimes even if the weather is fine, just driving a long distance in February kind of isn't too much fun, is that February we'll run 3 Council of Chairs by region. So we'll do one for Halton and Milton, one for Burlington, one for Oakville, and then we'll split ourselves accordingly. So each of those 3 sessions will need to have their own chair. And if we do have any guest speakers and that kind of thing, we'll have tech set up to do it as virtual presentations. But that also makes a slightly more intimate Council of Chairs, and we're hoping that will be really good for the more local community building. And then the one in May will be kind of back at one location. I think it's going to be at SFX again. I think that's what I remember. It'll be back at SFX where we had our one this previous May. Sorry, the first one is St. FX. The second one is St. Kateri. Okay, sorry, I had those backwards. I was going on memory. But yeah, we'll be at St. Kateri for that last one. Then we'll still do the Volunteer of the Year Award presentations there. And again, we'll ask the councils to send 2 people. Ideally, it's your chair / co-chair, but just send somebody. And then the other thing that we're going to do for all of the council of chairs is actually have some sort of like sign in so we can actually double check and have some accountability that the schools are sending someone. And if there are schools who didn't send representation, then Nancy will follow up with that after council of chairs. So that's the kind of sort of slight revamp. This was kind of just Nancy and I sort of spitballing about it over the summer. Happy for feedback on that or anything that you like or don't like, or because we're not like being like, this is how it's going to go. But this was a combination of conversations we had with the previous CPIC that we needed to make some changes, and then just kind of what we came up with over the summer. So I'll just kind of open that up to questions.
I just want to kind of reiterate what I said, I think last year, is that having the ability to have like the secondary schools kind of network together. I really like that. I think it's important and would like to have that done again. I get that it's going to be in different kind of cities, but again, Burlington and keeping the Burlington high schools. We could do it.
Yeah, so I think that was the intention, and we got good feedback from that. Where when we set up the tables for for that first one, we'll do it by sort of almost like elementary family of schools, but then the high schools will all be together. Because like we've said many times, just like the needs are so much different between the two that it makes more sense to just put all the high school representation together.
That part was a little confusing last year, having the family of schools and then the high schools, because I don't think anybody really sat at the high school tables. Like I just remember there was like 2 people at, I think our high school.
Okay, maybe just to throw it out as a suggestion, if we have like, if people are coming in and we're having them like sign in, then we have some people from our committee who are at the doors directing people. What school are you here from? Oh, okay, this school is this family of schools, that's elementary, you're gonna go to table 1. Okay, oh no, you're here from Corpus, you're gonna go to table 8. Yeah. And so on.
We can even do a diagram, right? And that will help. Yeah.
There was a chart.
It was a chart.
There was a chart up, but it was really small, and I don't think anybody noticed when they came in. So I think, I don't know, I think if we have people at the door to help direct in addition to having the chart up, I think between the two, people will go where they're meant to go.
Yeah.
No, that's a lot.
There you go. I think we have a CPIC meeting before the next council chairs, right? Okay, so we'll go through it in a little more detail at our next CPIC meeting. We'll have the proper agenda at that point, and we'll work out kind of where for all of us, where we're going to be and that kind of thing. The other thing is that we will redo all the group chats this year. It's on my to-do list. I'm going to do it before council of chairs rather than now, because I don't want to cut off people in September from each other, even if it's old council members. I don't want to cut them off until a little bit closer to council of chairs, until we can redo all of those group chats. So what I'll do before then is just remove everybody from it and then have everybody just re-add themselves like we did at last year's council chairs with the QR code, and then we can email the QR code around afterwards. And I think we'll say this year as well that like the chat doesn't need to be limited to chairs and co-chairs. It can kind of just be to whoever is engaged from a council. Because sometimes you have council people who are like, I'm not the chair, but I'm involved in hot lunch and I have a question for other people on what they've done with hot lunch and that kind of thing. Okay, so anything else, any other comments or questions or feedback or whatever for council chairs?
I think I emailed this one to you, but I'll just share it with all. The one suggestion I had, this was referring to sort of the last CPIC meeting where we were talking about cost savings. I was just going to suggest, I don't know how much food waste there is at the end of those events, or if the food that's left over is given somewhere, but just maybe if there is waste, cost saving, not have as much at those events, because there were some events where there was not a lot of people in person and it just felt like, you know,
there was a ton of money spent on food.
The May one was kind of particular for that one. So that one, first of all, that wasn't our budget. I think I remember the food that was at the May Council of Chairs. But also, like, we only had about a third of the people show up who were meant to be there. We had tons of empty tables out. So this is part of what we were saying was like, we need people, if we're going to run these council chairs and have them be useful, people need to actually be showing up. So I think if we actually had the full contingent, there wouldn't have been as much food waste, but I totally get the point. But hopefully with the numbers that we're expecting, we then manage it a little better.
Food went to the school. So believe me, food went to the school. That cafeteria is run by students at that school. But they didn't sell it in the cafeteria, but they used it at the school. So know that the food got used.
Yeah, you and I were part of the people shoveling it into the
A suggestion I might make, if just depending on when we're going to get our subcommittees up and going and having initial meetings.
before the next.
Okay, right. So I would suggest that perhaps if we can task the council, school council subcommittee with the job of having a discussion around council chairs, just to brainstorm in a smaller group, based on what we've heard Lauren describe as potential way forward. Maybe brainstorm, kick that around a bit so that we've got a foundation for a discussion at the next general meeting. Is that fair?
So you want us within our subcommittee to discuss our option now?
Yeah, just to bring some focus to it before the next general meeting. I find in smaller subcommittees, it's just easier to have those discussions and bat those ideas around, and then come back with at least the subcommittee's thoughts. Vis-a-vis supporting our school councils the best way we can through council chairs.
Cool. Okay. So next up on the list of discussion items is the Catholic School Council training. Janelle, I throw your name on it just because you kind of led it last year. So training for the new chairs.
Yeah, so I believe you and Nancy chatted and kind of suggested October 17th. Is that still the plan?
Yeah, to do it before Council of Chairs.
So that's before Council of Chairs. Yeah. So when our subcommittee meets to talk about what Jerry just proposed, that's also a goal is to figure out, do we need to revamp that PowerPoint for the October 18th session? We'll work with Andrea to get the communication out. Once councils have met and we know who those people are, I'm assuming Andrea will send out the invite, and we'll go from there. The other thing on our plate too is just to talk about Let's Connects and sort of plot those in between Council of Chairs, just so that we're sort of constantly connecting with our councils and giving them that opportunity to network. So I have a few dates sort of drafted out on, but I want to talk to this committee in terms of what their availability is as well, because ultimately it's us that are running those sessions. So we're on it.
Perfect. Okay, so next up is, or does anybody have any questions for Janelle on school council training? Cool, moving on. Okay, so parent engagement topics for 2024-25. So Cherish, who led that subcommittee last year, put together a Bible-sized set of notes on some things, some lessons learned from last year and some ideas for this year. So I forwarded it to you guys who are on that committee. In addition, when we did agenda building for this, Nancy and I were just kind of talking about the presentations that went really well this past year, which mostly, particularly you, Ada, as you were on the committee last year. So obviously, like the pathway presentations were a given. For those of you who were new, though, we ran one in person at Trinity and had so many people turn up that they had to rush to set up an overflow session to stream the presentation into the cafeteria. And then they had to start turning away people at the door. So it was like 600 plus people who showed up to that. It was huge. It was way more demand than we were expecting.
It was a lot of young.
Yeah, so no question that those pathways presentations, we got it, like, that's going to be like a huge focus for this year. And then, okay, can I have a motion to extend the meeting? Janelle, second. Emily, anybody opposed? No, cool. Okay. Okay, so sorry, just really quickly for the new guys then, thank you. Technically, we're only allowed to run from 7 until 9. If we need to run after 9, we need everybody's agreement to keep running after 9. Otherwise, we just have to end the meeting where it is and then call another meeting to finish our agenda. But we're nearly done. There's 2 things here, and I promise my last one I'm going to be really quick. So, okay, and then the other one was just talking about e-learning. There's a lot of changes to e-learning this year. There's probably going to be a lot of interest in e-learning. Other than that, it's over to you guys to run with that. Anybody have any comments, questions, input, whatever?
We had a really good speaker come in for a parent engagement program. Jam Gamble. And she spoke to our students and our parents about, utilizing your voice, finding your voice, speaking up. And it was great. It went over really well with our students. It went over really well with their parents. So if anybody needs contact information, I'm not on the parent engagement committee, but it was very well received. So it'd be cool to have her speak. Yeah.
Would it be fair to ask everyone to email us then the suggestions, and then we can just, because we're good, I'll set up. We'll have that conversation. I should shut off my mic. I was talking.
Oh, sorry.
So yeah, is that fair to, because you know who the names are, and then we'll just coordinate with ourselves and maybe present it. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. The last one was one that I asked Nancy to throw onto the agenda. So I'm going to be super quick here, just conscious of the time. Okay, so World Book Day. So I lived in the UK for 5 years, and while I was there, and even after I come back, but like just through social media, I have a lot of my contacts who have kids going through elementary school there. They do World Book Day. It's every April, and it's a particular day that's just around like reading and books and literacy, and all the kids come to school dressed as a character from one of their books, might be their favorite character or favorite book or whatever, but they come to school dressed up. They bring the book with them. They all get to do a presentation in class talking about why they picked their character. And then the schools often coordinate with things like book fairs or like special book activities. It's kind of a whole day that's just all around the joy of reading. And I always see this every year come up. Every April it comes up on my social media, and I'm always like, this is so cute. You get kids dressed up as all sorts of book characters, and some I've heard of and some I haven't. And it's kind of a really lovely thing that's just, it's a little bit less specific than Halloween, but it's kind of around a much more sort of educational focus. It's just a really nice thing. And I kind of always thought like, oh, that would be really cool if we did that, but nobody ever does that. And then I kind of had it on my radar to talk about last year, and then it never really ended up happening for a whole number of reasons. And at the same time, almost made me slightly grumpy is that Halton Public has implemented it, and they're going to have their book day in the way that it's done in Europe this coming April. So once I saw that they had announced it, and I'd already had this idea, I went to Nancy and I was like, how do we do this? So I wanted to put it on the agenda here, and I've had a few conversations with Nancy, so I don't know if you can give some kind of next steps type thing on how we can maybe make it happen.
So next steps would be that I'm going to communicate with Superintendent Jeff Kroll, who oversees curriculum, and we have our manager for library services. I think it starts in that wheelhouse. I'll bring it to them. I'll be honest with you, I think they'll be very interested, but because of the logistics and to make sure our communication, we want to get that out sooner than later, because again, if it's about a book that children are supposed to be coming in character in that, we want to make sure there's ample time. But we also would maybe want to have our Human Rights and Equity Officer just look at it and say, okay, because we don't want to have an event that excludes anybody or everybody can't participate in it. So I've got it, and then I will bring some information to the next meeting. Okay.
Lauren, I have a quick question. Is this event slated for elementary, or is this including the high school as well? I mean, like literacy. So it's
probably I would think more elementary.
Okay.
I don't recall seeing anybody from my just as I've seen it posted on socials and that kind of thing. I don't think it was particularly done at their secondary schools. It was definitely more of an elementary thing.
Okay, just wondering if there's something we can do that could not necessarily the kids dress up, but like something around teenagers reading a book, because you know how hard that can be. So just trying to figure out if there's I'm willing to help because I've got a kid in high school. So to do something for the high school kids as well around World Earth Day.
It'd be really cool to find a way to bring the secondary students into it in a way that is more appropriate for them. Like what does it look like for them? That would be a really interesting conversation to have. I'd love to do that.
You could probably take it to the student councils and ask them some way. Like I know in my high school, the arts council has a writing competition and that kind of thing. So they would make your costume for the theater and have dramatic readings, that sort of deal. There's lots of ways for them to participate without necessarily having to be all dressed up.
Okay, love it. Okay, so I think the next steps are fairly clear on that. Okay, closing out then. Does anybody have any other business or anything they specifically want added to the next agenda? And if you don't think of it now and you think of it at some point between now and the next meeting, just drop me an email or Janelle. And yeah, we'll get it added in. The agendas generally go out a week before our meetings. We have a deadline we have to adhere to for posting them. Okay, and closing prayer.
Before we close, thank you for a wonderful meeting. Great questions, great discussion, great planning to start the year. So thank you everyone for your participation. Please join me in the sign of our faith. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, amen. Loving God, as we conclude this meeting, we thank you for your guidance and presence in our discussions. We are grateful for the dedication and commitment of everyone here who works for the betterment of our school communities and HCDSB. Bless our students, staff, and families. Grant them wisdom, courage, and patience in their daily lives. Help us to continue to serve with open hearts and open minds, always seeking to build a community rooted in faith, hope, and love. Lord, we ask you to watch over us as we leave this gathering. May your peace be upon us, and may your light guide us in all that we do. We make this prayer through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Have a good night, everyone.